Did you know that there are constructions in the Bible so grand and mysterious that even scientists, with all their technology and knowledge, can't fully explain them? We're talking about works whose magnitude challenges the limits of modern science and continue to intrigue experts to this day. Some of these constructions were built with unimaginable wealth, others collapsed in mysterious ways, and there are even those that science tries to explain but fails to do so. In this video, we will dive into 5 of the greatest biblical constructions and the secrets they hide. And believe me, the last one on the list will leave you speechless. Are you ready for this journey through faith, history, and archaeology? Then let's begin. Imagine a scenario where, in a corrupt world, Noah receives from God the task of building a gigantic vessel without any modern equipment. No cranes or electric saws, just wood, rudimentary tools, and above all, a lot of faith. The Bible describes the ark with impressive dimensions, 137 meters long, 23 meters wide, and 14 meters high, a size comparable to a modern cargo ship made entirely of gopher wood and coated with pitch to withstand the flood. Noah was challenged to build the ark during a time of total corruption, where the world was far from God and practiced all kinds of evil. When God called Noah, he was the only righteous man on earth and was chosen to be the savior of life. The Bible tells us that God gave Noah clear and detailed instructions on how to build the ark and how to gather the animals. Imagine the effort and planning involved in gathering 2 of each species and keeping them safe during the long period of the flood. What makes this construction even more intriguing is how Noah, without the tools we have today, managed to carry out this feat. How did he organize the animals inside the ark, and how did he ensure they remained alive and safe for so many days? And did the flood, which covered even the mountains, really happen? Scholars have found evidence of a great flood in the Mesopotamian region, which may have inspired the story of the global flood. In 1959, Turkish pilot flew over Mount Ararat and found a formation that appeared to be the hull of a ship, leading to expeditions attempting to confirm whether the remains of the ark are really there. Furthermore, the ark was not only a means of salvation for Noah and his family, but a symbol of God's judgment and mercy. While the world was on the brink of destruction, God offered an opportunity for salvation, showing his mercy. Even in a scenario of total destruction, God provided a way of rescue. The ark represented not only a physical refuge, but also a means of preserving the divine creation. The story of the ark also teaches us about unwavering obedience and faith. Noah built the ark at a time when there were no visible signs of the flood, and he faced mockery and disbelief. However, his trust in God never wavered. His act of faith became a testimony of God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises. But can these mysteries be solved, or are we just beginning to understand the true magnitude of this miracle? And what else might archaeology reveal about the other constructions in the Bible? Let's discover now. Imagine a fortified city with walls so imposing that they seemed indestructible, the walls of Jericho. However, the fall of Jericho was not caused by war machines, but by trumpets and shouts of faith. The Bible narrates that the Israelites marched around the city in silence for 6 days, and on the 7th day, when they blew the trumpets and shouted, the walls collapsed completely. But is this scientifically possible? Archaeologists have investigated the site and found impressive ruins with evidence of an abrupt collapse of the walls, as if they had fallen from the inside out. Some suggest that an earthquake could have been the cause, as Jericho is situated on a geological fault line. However, how could the Israelites predict the exact moment of an earthquake, exactly when the trumpets were played? Additionally, the city of Jericho is one of the oldest in the world and was considered an almost impenetrable fortress. Its walls were made of solid stone and had several layers of construction, making the city a safe place against invasions. According to historian and archaeologist Catalin Canyin, who led excavations at Jericho in the 1950s, the walls of the city were destroyed in a very peculiar manner. Kenyon's excavations showed that the walls fell in a specific direction, which contradicts the idea that a military invasion or siege caused the collapse. She also observed that the city was deserted at the time of its destruction, raising the question, who exactly was responsible for the fall of the walls, and how does this align with the biblical narrative? Historians like James M. Miller also suggest that, despite the archaeological evidence, the supernatural explanation of God causing the walls to fall cannot be dismissed. The accuracy of the biblical description and the discovery of the ruins have been sources of debate among scholars, with many defending that the event was indeed a miracle. However, something unexpected happened. In what was described as a miraculous event, the walls fell after a simple command from God.
This raises an important question. How can such an extraordinary event occur exactly at the right moment? And what does this teach us about trusting in divine intervention in our lives? Does God's power outweigh any scientific explanation? Or was what happened in Jericho a natural phenomenon that we are still trying to understand? And what do the next constructions tell us about God's presence in the world? Let's continue our journey to find out. In a distant time, Solomon received from his father David the task of building a house for God. Solomon's temple was a colossal work, with stones carved with precision, transported without the sound of hammers. The interior was covered in pure gold, with carved cherubim and an imposing altar. God's presence was felt in every corner. After 7 years of work, the temple was completed, and something supernatural happened. A glorious cloud filled the space, and fire from heaven descended upon the altar, consuming the sacrifices. This was confirmation that God had accepted that temple as his dwelling. A moment of intense faith, where God's presence became visible to all. Beyond its grandeur, Solomon's temple held a profound meaning for the people of Israel. It was not just a physical structure, but a symbol of the place where God resided among men, becoming the spiritual and religious center of the entire nation. The temple not only housed the Ark of the Covenant, but was also the stage for sacrifices, prayers, and religious celebrations. Its construction followed a specific architecture given directly by God, with every detail planned with divine precision. The grandeur of the temple reflected God's sovereignty over all creation, being a sign of his majesty and power. The next construction we will see was where human ambition sparked God's wrath. After the flood, Noah's descendants gathered in the plain of Shinar, deciding to build the tower that reached to the heavens. But instead of drawing closer to God, their ambition stirred his anger, and he confused the languages of men, interrupting the construction. Suddenly, no one could understand each other, and the tower stopped. Did this tower really exist? Although there is no definitive answer, the story of Babel is one of the most enigmatic in the Bible. It reflects humanity's attempt to challenge God's authority and reach divine power by constructing something grand and beyond their limits. The lesson of Babel is clear. When we try to build for our own glory, God can interrupt our plans. The Tower of Babel was not just a physical structure, but a symbol of humanity's attempt at self-sufficiency. The desire to build a tower that reached the heavens reflects human ambition to attain divine status, challenging the limits set by God and attempting to reach power without the necessary humility. Are we in some way repeating the error of Babel in our lives today? When we pursue our own interests and forget God, what does that generate in our journey of faith? We need to reflect on our ambitions and see if they are aligned with God's will. Finally, after the Babylonian captivity, the Jews returned to Jerusalem with the dream of rebuilding the temple of God. The second temple was erected with great effort and faith, but it was considerably smaller and less luxurious than Solomon's. However, it symbolized the spiritual renewal of the people of Israel. King Herod later expanded and beautified the temple, turning it into one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world. He covered it with gold and marble, creating an imposing structure that reflected the glory of God. Herod, known for his grand renovation project, doubled the size of the temple's esplanade, creating walkways and columns, some of which are still visible at the famous Western Wall, which remains as a testimony to the magnificence of this temple. The construction was a masterpiece of ancient engineering, and a symbol of Israel's power at the time. However, just like Solomon's temple, the Second Temple was also destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. During the First Jewish Revolt, the Romans besieged Jerusalem, invaded the city, and set the temple on fire, fulfilling Jesus' prophecy that the temple would be destroyed. The fire caused the gold inside the temple to melt and run between the stones, leading the Roman soldiers to dismantle the temple's stones in search of the precious metal. What remained was the Western Wall, which to this day remains a place of prayer and lamentation for the Jews. The temple was destroyed, but its spiritual and cultural impact continues to influence Jews today, serving as a reminder of their history, resilience, and faith. These great constructions are more than just human achievements. They are manifestations of God's power. Noah's Ark, the walls of Jericho, Solomon's Temple, the Tower of Babel, and the Second Temple. All these stories teach us to trust in the divine plan, even when it challenges our understanding. And you, what have you been building in your life? Are you building for the glory of God or for your own glory? If you want to build your life according to God's will, comment now. Lord, I want to build my life in you. Did you enjoy this content? Like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.